A pleasant day to everyone, especially to our dear students. You are tuning in to Radyo Aralan sa Naga, Season 3, Anaga City Division on the air class for grade 10 students. We are glad to have you for another episode of Learning Mathematics today. I am Ma'am Rowena L. Rosales, your grade 10 mathematics teacher from Camarines Sur National High School. Before we start, look for a good place where you can clearly listen to our broadcast. Stay alert and focus on our discussion for you to understand today's lesson. Are you ready? Let's start. Our objectives for today's lesson are the following. First, derive the distance formula. Second, apply the distance formula in solving word problems. And third, show accuracy in solving problems using the distance formula. Before I proceed to our discussion, let me first show to you the map of Camarines Sur. Camarines Sur is a province located in the central part of the Bicol Peninsula. It is located between 140 degrees 10 minutes and 130 degrees 15 minutes north latitude and between 1,240 degrees 10 minutes and 1,220 degrees 40 minutes east longitude. Camarines Sur is the largest among the 6 provinces of Bicol region. Can you still recall the unusual phenomenon that happened last year which affects the province of Camarines Sur, including its nearby city? What have you experienced last October 14, 2021 at 10:08 p.m.? You're right! There was a 4.3 magnitude earthquake with the epicenter located at Canaman, Camarines Sur. The earthquake started on October 14 and continues for several days, which is known as the earthquake swarms. Some of you use the Google map to know the epicenter of the earthquake. To check the distance of the epicenter to your current location. Here's the map of Camarines Sur, which can be used to find the distance between two places. Say for example, if you are living in Tinambak, using a vehicle, the driving distance between Canaman and Tinambak is about 57.5 kilometers, given the route shown in the map. What if you have to solve this problem? The epicenter of the earthquake is located at Canaman, Camarines Sur. If you live in Tinambak, 20 kilometers north and 15 kilometers east of the epicenter, what is the distance of your house from the epicenter of the earthquake? Before answering this problem, let me first discuss to you our topic today, which is all about the distance between 2 points. In finding the distance between any 2 points, you can use the distance formula, which is derived from Pythagorean Theorem. Do you still remember this theorem? I know that you have it in your mind, and you're correct. Pythagorean Theorem states that in a right triangle, the square of the length of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the length of the two legs. In equation, you have c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, where a and b are the legs and c is the hypotenuse. Say for instance, in this coordinate plane, we have the x and y axis. What is the length of the vertical line segment AB? Points A and B lie on the second quadrant of the coordinate plane. Point A has coordinates positive 2, positive 5, and point B has coordinates positive 2, positive 1. To find the length of line segment AB, you can just count the number of units from point A to point B. Or, you can find the absolute value of the difference between y sub 1 and y sub 2. In this example, y sub 1 is equal to 5 and y sub 2 is equal to 1. The absolute value of the difference between 5 and 1 is 4. Thus, the length of the line segment AB is 4 units. If point B has coordinates positive 2, positive 1, and point C has coordinates positive 5, positive 1, can you find the length of the horizontal line segment BC? Good job, my dear students! Your answer is correct. To find the length of segment BC, you can find the absolute value of the difference between x sub 1 and x sub 2. The value of x sub 1 is equal to 2 and x sub 2 is equal to 5. The absolute value of 2 minus 5 is equal to 3. Thus, the length of line segment BC is 3 units. How about the length of line segment AC? If you will analyze the figure, line segments AB, BC, and AC form a right triangle ABC. Thus, you can apply the Pythagorean theorem to find the length of line segment AC. Since the length of line segment AB is 4 units and line segment BC has a length of 3 units, to find line segment AC, you can use the formula C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared, or C is equal to the square root of the quantity A squared plus B squared, where C is the unknown segment AC. Thus, segment AC is equal to the square root of segment AB squared plus segment BC squared. Line segment AC is the hypotenuse of right triangle ABC, and line segments AB and BC are the two legs. Hence, the length of segment AC is equal to the square root of the quantity 4 squared plus 3 squared. Simplify, you have the square root of the quantity 16 plus 9. It becomes the square root of 25, which is equal to 5. Thus, the length of segment AC is 5 units. Using the theorem, you can derive the distance formula. In the example, segment AC is equal to the square root of segment BC squared plus segment AB squared. Using the coordinates of the given points x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2, the distance between point A and point C can be computed using the formula D is equal to the square root of the quantity x sub 1 minus x sub 2 squared plus the quantity of y sub 1 minus y sub 2 squared, or D is equal to the square root of the quantity x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus the quantity of y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared, where D is the distance between the two given points. X sub 1 and x sub 2 are the x coordinates, and y sub 1 and y sub 2 are the y coordinates of the two given points. Let's have some examples. Find the distance between the two given points. Point M, 9, 8, and point A, we have 1, 2. In this example, x sub 1 is equal to 9, x sub 2 is equal to 1, and y sub 1 is equal to 8, and y sub 2 is equal to 2. If you substitute the values in the formula, D is equal to the square root of the quantity x sub 1 minus x sub 2 squared plus the quantity of y sub 1 minus y sub 2 squared, you will have D is equal to the square root of the quantity 9 minus 1 squared plus the quantity of 8 minus 2 squared. Simplify, you have D is equal to the square root of 8 squared plus 6 squared. It becomes D is equal to the square root of the quantity 64 plus 36, which is equal to the square root of 100. Square root of 100 is equal to 10. Thus, the distance between point M and point A is 10 units. Another example, find the distance between point R, negative 2, positive 3, and point D, positive 4, negative 1. We have x of 1 is equal to negative 2, x of 2 is equal to positive 4, and y sub 1 is equal to 3, and y sub 2 is equal to negative 1. If you substitute the values in the formula, D is equal to the square root of the quantity x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus the quantity of y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. We have D is equal to the square root of the quantity 4 minus negative 2 squared plus the quantity of negative 1 minus 3 squared. So D is equal to the square root of 6 squared plus the quantity of negative 4 squared. We have D is equal to the square root of 36 plus 16, which is the square root of 52. Simplify it further, we have the square root of 4 times 13. Thus, the distance between points R and D is 2 the square root of 13 units. Let's have another example. Find the distance between point F, negative 3, positive 5, and point B, negative 5, positive 2. In this example, x of 1 is equal to negative 3 and x of 2 is equal to negative 5. And y sub 1 is equal to 5 and y sub 2 is equal to 2. If you substitute the values in the formula, we will have D is equal to the square root of the quantity negative 3 minus negative 5 squared plus the quantity of 5 minus 2 squared. Simplify, you have D is equal to the square root of the quantity negative 3 plus 5 squared plus the quantity of 5 minus 2 squared. Simplify it further, you will have D is equal to the square root of 2 squared plus 3 squared. It becomes D is equal to the square root of 4 plus 9, which is square root of 13. Thus, the distance between point F and point B is square root of 13 units. Let us now answer the problem posted in the beginning of our lesson. The epicenter of the earthquake is located at Canaman, Camarines Sur. If you live in Tinambak, 20 kilometers north and 15 kilometers east of the epicenter, what is the actual distance, not the driving distance based from the possible routes, of your house from the epicenter of the earthquake? Based on the illustration, the coordinates of the epicenter is at the origin, and the location of Tinambak has coordinates positive 15, positive 20. Here, x of 1 is equal to 0 and x of 2 is equal to 15. Y sub 1 is equal to 0 and y sub 2 is equal to 20. Substitute the values in the formula, we will have D is equal to the square root of the quantity x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus the quantity of y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. D is equal now to the square root of the quantity 15 minus 0 squared plus the quantity of 20 minus 0 squared. Simplify, you have D equals the square root of 15 squared plus 20 squared. It becomes the square root of the quantity 225 plus 400. Simplify it further, you will have the square root of 625, which is equal to 25. Thus, the distance between your house in Tinambak and the epicenter of the earthquake is about 25 kilometers. Is everything clear to you? Are you still on the track? Do you still enjoy listening and learning? If your answer is yes, that's awesome! Now that you have already know and understand our topic on distance between 2 points using the distance formula, let us have a simple assessment. Get your ball pen and paper and answer this assessment. Write true if the statement is correct and false if it is incorrect. Number 1. Points with the same x-coordinate form a vertical line. True or false? The answer is true. Number 2. The distance between any 2 points also refers to the length of the line segment with these points as endpoints. True or false? The answer is true. Number 3. The distance between any 2 points can be a negative real number. True or false? The answer is false. Last, number 4. In a right triangle, the square of the length of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the length of the legs. True or false? The answer is true. Okay, another. What is the distance between the 2 points 4, 5 and 2, 5? Is it letter A, 2 units, letter B, 3 units, letter C, 4 units, or letter D, 5 units? The correct answer is letter A, 2 units. Since the 2 points form a horizontal line segment, you can just find the absolute value of the difference between 4 and 2. Very good! You got the correct answer. Next problem. What is the distance between the 2 given points, positive 7, negative 3, and positive 2, positive 1? Is it letter A, square root of 13 units? Letter B, square root of 21 units? Letter C, square root of 41 units? Or letter D, square root of 43 units? You're right! The distance is square root of 41 units, and that is letter C. Given the points, we have 7, negative 3, and we have 2, 1. Here, x sub 1 is equal to 7, x sub 2 is equal to 2, and y sub 1 is equal to negative 3, and y sub 2 is equal to 1. Using again the formula, we have d is equal to the square root of the quantity x sub 1 minus x sub 2 squared plus the quantity of y sub 1 minus y sub 2 squared. You will have d is equal to the square root of the quantity 7 minus 2 squared plus the quantity of negative 3 minus 1 squared. Simplify, it becomes d is equal to 5, the square root of 5 squared plus the quantity of negative 4 squared. Then, d equals the square root of 25 plus 16, which is equal to square root of 41. Thus, the distance is square root of 41 units. How do you find solving problems involving the distance between 2 points? Which part is easy and which part is difficult? Let us reflect on this. Today, communicating with loved ones at a distance is so easy. In what ways do you express your love and concern for your loved ones. Even if we have a long-distance relationship with our loved ones, at present, modern technology made our distance closer to each other. Thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you have learned something from our discussion and you'll be able to answer your activity sheets and test accurately. Once again, this is Ma'am Rowena L. Rosales, your grade 10 mathematics teacher from Camarines Sur National High School.